So another topic that involves Kamala Harris is some that I want to discuss about was her student debt plan. So she has a student loan debt plan that is just like her healthcare plan that we just discussed, horrible. And it is not comprehensive. It does not rock the boat. It does not do anything, over the top because, as I've said, about any establishment politician like Kamala Harris, she knows how her bread is buttered, and she is going to continue to perpetuate the system that involves the health insurance. I'm sorry, in this case, the big corporations and the people that continue to screw us over. So let's get into the article here a little bit. So this is the headline of the article. This is from CNBC.com. And the title is Presidential Candidate Kamala Harris has a student debt forgiveness plan, but it's complicated. So let's check out the article here, the body of the article. It says, student debt has become a central issue in the 2020 presidential campaign. First, Senator Elizabeth Warren proposed canceling $640 billion of it. Then Senator Bernie Sanders said he would erase all $1.6 trillion of it. Now Kamala Harris has released a plan to forgive student debt. Well, sort of. Borrowers will have a lot of boxes to check before they can get the $20,000 in student debt forgiveness on the table in her proposal. They will have to be 1. A Pell Grant recipient who 2. starts a business in a disadvantaged community, and 3. manages to keep that business afloat for at least 3 years. Compared to what we've seen from candidates like Senator Sanders and Senator Warren, it's a much more narrow proposal, said Julie Margetta Morgan, a fellow at the Roosevelt Institute. I think that's a progressive think tank, I believe. So narrow as to be absurd, said Matt Bruenig, founder of the People's Policy Project. When you look at the requirements, it's hard to imagine more than a handful of people would ever qualify for it. And then it shows a chart here. It talks about the student debt boom, which has gone up to, I guess, totaling all there's different age groups here. Here, I can post it on the screen for you guys. So it says, so people under 30, it shows the amount of debt they have. People that are between 30 and the ages of 30 and 39, between the ages of 40 and 49, between the ages of 50 and 59, and the people that are above 60 years old. And it seems like a majority of it seems to be somewhere between the people that are 30 and 39 and under 30. For sure. Yeah, the rest of the people, not so much. Student debt was, I guess the kind of the student debt that was racking up back in the day. So for people that were, a little bit older, 40 to 60 years old, essentially, and 60 and above, obviously wasn't as much for people that are, 30 or was it under 40 years old, essentially. So in the, just outside of the millennial kind of bracket and then in the millennial bracket. So those are the people that are suffering definitely the most through student loan debt. So continuing on here, it says Americans are now more burdened by loans they took out for their education than credit card or auto debt. The average college graduate leaves school $30,000 in the red today, up from $10,000 in the 90s. See what I say? And 28% of student loan borrowers are in delinquency or default. Wow, delinquency or default. The differences between the proposals represent a wider divide in how candidates have appraised the state of higher education in the United States. Some candidates conclude the system has devolved into dysfunction and a reset button must be pressed. This is evidenced by how Warren and Sanders say student debt threatens the prosperity of an entire generation. Meanwhile, another camp thinks the burden of student debt poses opportunities and are, quote, pushing for options that basically condition debt relief on doing something that they find valuable to society. Margetta Morgan, the same person from before, said, that works for the Roosevelt Institute. Indeed, a senior policy advisor for the Harris campaign told CNBC her plan is not a student debt proposal. Okay. This is just one pillar that supports the senator's broader proposal to invest and support black entrepreneurs. Okay, but the plan, as you may have heard, I'm going to get into the people that are kind of mocking it a little bit more in a second here. But if you may have heard, it says that it wants people that are, disadvantaged youth and I guess people of color, entrepreneurs of color, they have to be running a business for 3 years until they can qualify for Pell Grants. That's crazy. 3 years? you know how hard it is for somebody to have a business open for 1 year, for 2 years, let alone 3 years. Come on, man, it's crazy. I mean, how out of touch do you have to be to think that anybody can do this and then make that as a qualification for, make that as a qualification for why you should receive Pell Grants, not even fucking, student loan, kind of getting your student loan debt, wiped out like as Bernie Sanders' $1.6 trillion plan does. And then it says here, under Harris's proposal, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau would also be tasked with reducing discrimination against entrepreneurs of color, and a $12 billion grant program for black and minority business owners would be created. And black students receive about a quarter of Pell Grant funding, though they make up just 15%. 15% of college students overall. It says, yet others expressed concern about the plan to tie debt relief to opening a business, an act which itself can require taking on additional debt. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Starting a business is an incredibly risky venture for anybody, said Tiffany Jones, Director of Higher Education Policy at the Education Trust, a nonprofit advocacy organization in Washington, let alone, she said, for the low-income students which are using Pell Grants. And it says here in parentheses, it says the grants typically go to students from families with an income below $20,000. Last year, 7 million people received them. Harris's proposal even acknowledges that black entrepreneurs are most likely to rely on personal credit cards carrying balances than traditional bank loans. And when they do get a loan, are more likely to be offered a smaller amount and pay higher interest rates. And around half of businesses with employees don't survive even 5 years, according to the Small Business Association. Even most businesses that are not started by people who are right out of college and are not located in disadvantaged areas fail, Matt Brunig said. Let's see, it says the senior policy advisor for the Harris campaign countered that the risk involved would be reduced by the fact that borrowers could suspend their student loan payments without interest accruing for the first 3 years, during which they're getting business off the ground. Yeah, but still, I mean, the incentive is, what kind of incentive is that? They're trying to pretend as if it's an incentive program, but it's not. And here we got a chart here. I'm going to put it up for you guys if you want to check it out here. So it says student debt demographics. So it said these are the different student debt levels. It says this is an average for bachelor's degree recipients with loans in 2016. So this is a 2016 poll, 2016 chart. So it says black people, they accrue 30. So in 2016 they accrued on average $33,993. Black people, African Americans. White people accrued an average of $30,093. All people accrued an average of $29,669. Native Hawaiian and or Pacific Islander accrued an average of $26,515. American Indian or Alaska Native accrued $26,380. Asians accrued $25,447. Hispanic and or Latino accrued $25,452. And this one is share. So the percentage of the share with student debt. So this is based on percentages. And this is a share of the bachelor's, people with bachelor's degrees with loans in 2016. And let's see, it says, so the share of the student debt that the Hawaiian and or Pacific Islanders accrue is 89.4%. The share of the student debt that Black or African American people accrue is 84.9%. The share of the student debt that American Indian or Alaska Natives accrue is 76.1%. The share of the student debt that white people accrue is 69.4%. The share that that all people accrue is 68.9%. The share that Hispanic and Latino accrue is 66.3%. And the share that Asians accrue is 45.1%. So if you're able to keep up, that's a interesting graph to check out based on to kind of get an idea of where people are when it comes to student loan debt as far as demographics and everything. Continuing on with the article here, it says, still many Pell Grant recipients will likely find it difficult to walk away from their jobs and start a business in the first place, said Jacob William Faber, a sociologist at New York University who studies racial economic disparity. Quoting him, it says, this is tied to a bigger kind of bootstrap myth about economic mobility. Other critics said the plan is simply too complicated. If we've learned anything from the public service loan forgiveness debacle, it's the need to keep loan forgiveness programs simple and straightforward, said Mark Kantrowitz, the publisher of SavingForCollege.com. Less than 1% of applicants have walked away from their debt under that program due to wonky requirements and a failure by the education department and its servicers to explain them. The strategy of Harris's proposal was most likely a rhetorical one, Brunig said. Its narrowness seemed a direct nod at those who say Warren and Sanders' plans suffer from being overly broad and unrealistic. Quoting Brunig one more time here, it says, it's done in the form of a student debt forgiveness plan, but it's really a way to critique student debt forgiveness. So, yeah, that's a good breakdown and a good criticism of Kamala Harris's plan. Again, she's doing another plan, just like her Medicare for All plan. When it comes to student loan debt forgiveness, she's doing a plan that is catering to the establishment and catering to people that don't want anything bold or quote-unquote unrealistic to happen. So this is something to please those people and not actually help people that need the student loan debt to be wiped away. Like I said, as Bernie Sanders' plan, or to some extent Elizabeth Warren's plan, which I believe is just a grift off of Bernie's plan. But to some extent, hers is much better than Kamala Harris's. And then so I wanted to read you guys the tweet that Kamala Harris put out here. It says, yesterday I announced that as president, I'll establish a student loan debt forgiveness program for Pell Grant recipients who start a business that operates for 3 years in disadvantaged communities. And then this tweet got so much attention. This was posted on July 27th. It got so much attention from people on Twitter, and it got ratioed like crazy. So the people that were commenting, I was one of the people that commented on it. If you look at the numbers, so the number of retweets it got was 2.5 thousand, so 2,500 retweets, and then 11,000 likes. But the number of comments was 12,700 comments, so like responses to the tweet. That means that largely majority of them were disagreements, and I know that because I saw the tweets, and a lot of them were from progressives like myself. And she just got ratioed like hell, and deservedly so, because it's a horrible plan. And if that wasn't, so if those numbers specifically showing, her getting ratioed doesn't convince you how bad her plan is and how much people disagree with her, let's get into some of the tweets that people left. So this is somebody that's commenting, Camilla Londono. This is all on Twitter. And so Camilla Londono says, I work at an incubator in a university that is deeply committed to innovation in a city that has what feels like an incubator in every corner. And this is so absurd. A lot of new businesses fail and they take a lot of money and effort regardless of success. Who does this help? And then another person, Adriana Lacey, says, so she responds to Kamala's tweet and says, there's a lot going on here. Just trying to understand who these people are who were granted Pell Grants, but also have the capital to start a business in a disadvantaged area and can ensure it is successful for at least 3 years. Exactly. Ed Zitrone says, what do we want? Student loan forgiveness for Pell Grant recipients. When do we want it? After operating a business for 3 years in disadvantaged communities. It's like one of those chants that they do in like school, like pep rallies. What do we want? When are we going to get it? And then Rob Delaney. Rob Delaney is a guy, I think he's an American guy that's living in the UK, so he comments on a lot of the stuff that's going on in American politics. He's a Bernie supporter too, I think. He says, yesterday I announced, so he's responding to Kamala Harris's tweet, yesterday I announced that, as president, I'll establish a student loan debt forgiveness program for men named Kevin. I'm one of them. Men named Kevin who can bench their wives 10 times on the top of a Winnebago at 15 miles per hour. Hopefully, I don't think I'm ever going to have a Winnebago, but I am Kevin. And then Brandy Jensen here says, yesterday I announced that as president, I'll establish a student loan debt forgiveness program for Pell Grant recipients who start a hair salon that has a pun name. Sheer madness. Jack the Clipper, do or die, DYE, etc. Oh man, you gotta love it. And then let's see, one more tweet here. It says Rob, his Twitter name is Rob Wisman. This is like one of those things where if you eat a 72-ounce steak, you don't have to pay for it. Oh my god, I love when people troll politicians or just people on Twitter. You know, anybody really on Twitter, like with shit like this. It's hilarious. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what Kamala Harris is doing. Honestly, she just seems to be like pissing in the wind. It doesn't seem like she's very serious about trying to truly do anything that is going to fix the serious problems that we have in this country. There's nothing else I can say. This article articulates it perfectly. The people that commented and mocked it. I was one of the people that mocked her tweet as well and her plan as well. I mean, there's just nothing else. What can you say to stuff like this? It's so uninspiring. It's so uninteresting that it's like you can't, nobody gets inspired by stuff like this. Nobody's going to go out there and be like, oh my God, this person is saying something so wonderful and so inspiring and so great. And so, I can totally get on board with this. And I'm so pumped to vote for this person. There's nothing that's going to pump anybody up for somebody like, honestly, like somebody like Kamala Harris when she puts out plans like this. I mean, she's already uninteresting as it is. And people are like fucking fawning over her. I'm just talking about, obviously, when I say these things, I'm saying it from my own perspective. But obviously, there are people that are pumped up for her, but I don't really understand why. They just think that, a lot of people just treat Kamala Harris as like the next coming of Barack Obama, and somewhat in the same mold as Hillary Clinton as well. But it's just like but that's the problem. That's the exact issue. We don't need somebody like Barack Obama. He was already president. Even though he would probably, win in a, presidential race against Trump if he was running, Barack Obama might have won he would have actually won a third term, I think. But even if he was able to do that and somebody like Barack Obama was somebody that, people would have wanted, that doesn't mean that we need him or somebody like him. Let alone somebody like Hillary Clinton. It's even worse. But so these plans that she put out, her Medicare for All plan, her student loan debt forgiveness plan, which isn't even a student loan debt forgiveness, it's just giving people Pell Grants that run a business for 3 years, which is ridiculous. And then her record as Attorney General is fucking horrible, as we documented. So it's just, she's got fucking red flags all over the place, man. So what the hell's the point of even voting for this person if they come in with all these terrible fucking problems? I'm like, I just don't get it. What do people see in her other than the fact that she's a black woman of color? That's it. And I don't know, she's very strong and she's very tough and she can take on Trump. Ooh, wonderful. But then if you get into the details of it, she's not good at all. So it makes no sense. So I don't know. Whatever, man. If you're into the idea of Kamala Harris as president, have fun with it because you're not going to get too many people on your side.